Okay. All right. So, hello everyone, and it's a great one job for me and YRI team to have this workshop opportunity to celebrate to all the students. And it's very critical topic, by the way, for research work. Okay. So, because that's your final stage where you have to read and you need to read and write your research articles, right? So definitely everyone is going with a lot of different topics for this research in your 10 plans and just writing the work. Okay. So yeah, writing the work is actually very critical. And also the same goes with like how to read an article. So I think you came across like a lot of related literature and research articles for your projects with which you are aligning and trying to explore like your new novelties, basically new methods, which can be like which can have a better result than the benchmark result that you can see in your literature, so that you can come across with your novelty and highlight it in terms of a lot of parameters, like in terms of accuracy, in terms of the like efficiency. Okay. So yeah, this is all about like how to read and write research articles. And uh, so this is the today's roadmap for this workshop. Understand the research world, learn to read research, and learn to write research. So three parts are there for this workshop, right? So we will discuss briefly about articles, conferences, what are journals, indexing databases, H-index, and the terms every researcher should know. Okay, I think you all are like you all are actually having in a scratch kind of a, or starting from very beginning of this part. Okay, so that's why I will start with like extreme beginner style. Okay, then part two, we will learn to read about the research using this IMRAD structure, the three pass reading method that we will discuss later. And then we will try to have a session on learn to write research, okay, and focused on the IEEE conference work, right? So why should you care about research, right? So yeah, I think everyone has joined YRI like with the curiosity of like doing some research, right? And that's a great passion, and that's a great choice for everyone, because in research you're actually searching something again. So that's why it's termed as research. And actually it actually shows your curiosity level, right? And your creativity, your critical thinking. Okay. So basically most of the projects I have seen in YRI are belonging to computational biology, AI and machine learning, healthcare impact. Okay. And we are targeting for like publications and ISEF. So basically we need a project where there is a clear social impact, okay, integrated with your project, right? And apart from that, you have to like see the particular novelty, the new thing that you have added in the existing literature, right? And you don't need a PhD to start, right? You all are like high school students, and I hope that like you have joined it, okay, for having a better portfolio and learning a lot of things in this whole journey of research. Okay, so understanding the research world is the first step that we should know. Okay, so what are this article, research article? So I think everyone has come across like every mentors have like circulated you some research article related to your projects, right? So what are research articles? So the research article that you have seen, which is published, so that published articles have clear dates, right? When it is submitted, when it is gone for revision, when it is actually accepted, and when it is published online, right? So research article is basically a formal peer-reviewed report of an original work, okay? A new method, experiment, or finding written so that other researchers can verify it, question it, and build on it, right? So build on it means reproducibility. The work can be reproduced. Okay, so it should be authentic and well coded. You have the evidence of every result that you put in your research paper, right? So what is peer review, right? So peer review is one of the process in which every research article goes like in this journey. So For example, if I am making a research based on detection of diabetes, right, using some physiological signals, that's my research topic. So it's a very generalized topic. Inside it, if I make some novelties, right, if I am finding some novel index or some novel biomarker to uh, to actually diagnose someone's diabetes, okay, then I have to make a very clear, crystal clear title for that, which can highlight my novelty part also, and also what things we are using to diagnose it, right? So if you are diagnosing it with physiological signals, if you are diagnosing it with some reports, right? Reports based on demographic information or other lifestyle information that is actually collected as a database, right? So when I write this article with every aspects, every components of a research article, and then I actually submit it into some journal, right? So when it passes into journal, okay, there are a lot of researchers, okay, which are having the same project which they did in their previous research journey. Mostly that people are actually asked for reviewing that paper. So your paper will be like uh, the journal editor in chief. The every journal has one editor in chief, which actually takes your submission, and first it carefully checks your the major checks like technicality checks for your article about its similarity report, whether it should not be copied from like AI or should not be copied from someone else project, right? So it should be checked with lot of things initially, okay, and Turnitin or other softwares are used to judge the similarity of your article, okay, by comparing it with the large database of articles or conferences papers, right? So that they can assure that the entire written material is from your side, right? It's actually should be handcrafted and typed by you. Apart from that, when it is actually passed from first technical check, it goes to the other researchers, okay? And these researchers have your draft of manuscript, and they review it and see the major technical or minor technical deficiencies that are available in your research work. So when they found any deficiency, they write somewhere, okay? So these are called as review or revision questions. They ask for the question. If there are like lot of mistakes or very fundamental mistakes which are found in your research article, then your research article is highly susceptible for immediate rejection from the desk or by reviewers, right? But when there is some novelties found out, and if your article is like written in a very good manner with all aspect of components of a research article, then definitely it will go for a rigorous revision, and different reviewers will provide their view or like revise, like they will say for another type of experiment which needs to be done for more clarifications, more transparency, more validation, so that your article can like revised by you again, okay, and then it will refine, you will refine this article again and again so that it can come to a shape of very good research article that should be like suitable for publication, okay. So original contributions is actually in research is about like contributing something on a method, a data set, insight, or any results, okay, that did not exist before. For example, I am talking about, let's say, diabetes detection or diabetes diagnosis. So let's say you can add some new features on it, okay, on the physiological signals. Maybe you can contribute for the data set collection even. So if you are trying to find out diabetes based on some lifestyle experiments of the subjects, okay, then you can hire volunteers or you can make data collection on your universities, and then you can collect the data, provide some results based on that data for diabetes diagnosis, and then what you can do, you can publish that data set article, okay, in some good journals, okay, or you can do some new findings about that research, or you can do some improvement in the results, okay, so that it can actually highlight your original contribution. Then peer reviewed, I already told you the process of peer review, right? And yeah, it should follow a structure. Your research article have lot of components that we will discuss later. Okay, that should follow a structure. Then only you should like give it to like or submit it to some journals. Then we will also talk about what is citation indexing. Okay, so these things we will discuss. Okay, later. Now, what is actually a journal paper? What is actually a conference paper? So conference paper like IEEE, okay, and we actually mostly publish in IEEE conference. So it's having a single review, single round review, and it actually contains a deadline. A conference is actually organized by a lot of institute and also a lot of publisher. Publisher names are IEEE, Springer, Elsevier, okay, Derji Park, and let's say Ville, Taylor and Francis. Okay, and yeah, there are a lot of publishers which are actually publishing their articles. Okay, they organize conferences. Okay, so IEEE is the most famous one, and actually globally they actually organize these conferences, right? And there are different societies also. Like EMBC is the most famous society which publishes the papers on computational biology and the AI for medicine, basically. And there are different societies within the countries and globally, right, by IEEE. So these are actually divided into different tiers. So EMBC that I was talking about is actually a tier one conference, globally publishes, and many of our students have also published, like accepted their paper in like a EMBC conference, right? So their review is actually single round because they have a deadline for paper submission, deadline for they actually also give deadline for your manuscript acceptance or rejection date. Okay. And then finally they give time for camera ready submission. That means after your revision, they ask you to do some changes on your paper. And then the final paper you submit it to the conference platform. And then they organize conference in some venues and you need to physically or online need to be presented over there to present your research article on given track. So there are several tracks are also decided by the organization committee of the conference, like AI and ML, computational biology, or telemonitoring of like medical data, okay, or like computer vision. A lot of tracks are there, so they should be like divided into one track, okay, that is more suitable aligned for your research article. Okay, and the IEEE, EMPC, UIPS, CVPR is by Springer. So there are a lot of examples of this conference paper. Journal articles is a little tricky and little more rigorous kind of a process. Okay, so if you want to publish something in journal, okay, you have to very sure that your research article must align with the that scope of that journal. So for example, let's say I want to publish some paper based on some sensors, right? So there is a particular journal called as IEEE Sensor Journal where you can publish that particular work into this conference, this journal. So related to like artificial intelligence, so IEEE transactions on artificial intelligence is another top tier journal. Okay, so they actually take 2 to 3 rounds or even slow. So it actually takes months of like time to get the review of your journal article, right? Because they actually goes for a peer review process, rigorous peer review process, and they take like it's not decided that whether 2 3 months will be taken by them or the particular editor in chief to get the reviews, right? So it can takes like 2 3 months, 1 month, or even for 1 year and more to get the reviews. Okay, so it's very rigorous and. It has an in-depth complete study, and it actually involves entire end-to-end pipeline of any project. Okay, with all validations, all justifications, and all basically all complete results. Right. So yeah, these are the examples. Like Nature. Nature is a very good journal. IEEE Sensor Journal. These are top tier quality one kind of a journals. Okay, then you can publish your article. Talking about beyond the paper, some other research outputs you can give it to like poster presentation. Sometimes one single poster you can design, okay, which is actually asked in some like conferences, which have like conference paper track is different, like poster presentation is different. So you can present your poster if your research is actually research pipeline is comparatively smaller, right, or very small findings are there. Book chapter is another like a kind of a research contribution you can give. Like book chapters are actually given by some, for example, I and let's say our program assistant Vishal. If we both together wants to publish a book, okay, based on AI for healthcare, so we both together will be like editor in chief. Okay, sorry, we both are to called as editors of that book. So we are editors. Okay, so we have like let's say 15 chapters in our book. We decided it in prior, like so that we can like uh, we have a theme like for example AI for healthcare. So we can now call for chapters that we can like publish online and like we can advertise it so that we can get contribution from the authors like you, like researchers, that you can contribute to this book as a chapters for individual chapters. So chapter one, let's say it's all about introduction of that particular physiological signals, and then chapter two is all about the signal qualities and all. So these chapters you can demand from the other researchers so that when it comes to an end, when you got all the chapter contribution together, then you can also ask them for revising it. Okay. Once the revision is also done, then the complete refined book is published after some time. So that's the book chapter contribution. So patent is actually a legal protection of your work, basically. So I think everyone is aware about patent. So patent is, for example, if you feel that your research is some sort of good invention that has nobody done, right? So you can like go for like patent contribution. Similarly, if your work is actually based on like, for example, you are a master's student, okay, in future, or you are like even if you are a graduate student and you have like got a project in the final year, so definitely one thesis or dissertation is required to be submitted in partial fulfillment of that degree. Okay, so that is actually a long detailed body of work, like a book. Okay, that you should submit it to earn a particular degree, right? Preprint. So have you if you go to like Google or like you if you want to search some new very recent works, then preprint is one of the process. Sorry, preprint is one of the particular early publication of your research work. Okay, that actually gives you like the work is not published yet, even not revised, but you can publicly uh, publish your work. Okay, so that other people can give review of that. It's just like a giving a trailer of a movie. A trailer of a movie comes like to give a glimpse about that movie, actually what the movie is all about. So similarly, preprint is kind of a trailer or like a early prototype presentation of your research work, right? Idea to impact, the research ladder that you should follow every time when you write any research work or read any research work. So first of all, let's say if you want to solve a problem or it's a social problem that you want to solve. For example, if a person is actually foot ulcer, like let's say one problem is there for foot ulcer. So if a person is, or you can see in your society that there are very less diagnosis mechanism for this foot ulcer. So that's an idea or problem that you are facing. So you are making some hypothesis that AI can solve this, or like if I should do some sort of like new kind of work on this, then I can able to solve this problem. So you go for experiment and analysis on some data sets. Okay. So you got some public data sets and you actually see some literature based on it, and you find out that like no more research work has been done, or the early researchers have not got the particular that kind of accuracy or diagnosis results which are actually fruitful or which can be like validated. So in that case, you can hold that work and try to like do experiments so that you can better do that work. Okay, and better you can find a better results than those. So once you do that, you actually give it to preprint. Okay. So preprint will be available in this archive, ARXIV. This is a platform where you can see the preprints of any work. Then if you find that a lot of revisions came from the community or like a lot of people, then you can go for submit it into some peer reviewed journal paper. So it is peer reviewed, okay, and if it is published, your research work will be like a reference by like a lot of other researchers. So if I am like more like going for this research work related to foot ulcer, then I actually find lot of research articles. So I can cite that research article when I use their statements or there's some sort of their results or facts. When I use it in our my research, then I should cite it. So that is actually giving credits to the people who already done some sort of good work on their paper, right? So that's called as giving references. Where researchers lie, databases and indexing, right? So what is actually this databases? Okay, so whatever the paper you are watching now, right? So that should take one place where it can be qualified as a high quality journal or a low quality journal. Okay, so high quality journal is the one which is validated a number of times. Okay, they actually gone through a lot of rigorous peer reviews. Okay, by researchers, and then only after all this validation, it actually gets published. So when we talk about their databases, database means where you can like validate that, yeah, this article is actually indexed or present in the database. Database called as Web of Science, for example. So Web of Science is actually one of the highest priority or most rigorous kind of a database where you can find a lot of like high quality journals. So Web of Science actually takes only those journals which are like peer reviewed like a lot of time and that are actually up to Q1 or Q2 quartile. Q1 or Q2 means quartile one or quality one kind of journals. Q2 means quality two types of journals. Okay. So if a journal is present in Web of Science, that means that journal is actually is of high quality. But this Web of Science database is actually much narrow. It actually have a very specific topic. Okay, not broad and mostly related to like science, where scientific or technical works are present. Scoopus actually has like a another database which is actually holded by Elsevier. That is actually have much more wide audience. It contains all the journals related to social science, science, and the other technical or even literature, English. So all this works are actually uh, uh, these works are actually when indexed by Scoopus. That means these are high quality journals. Okay, apart from technical journals which are present in this database of Scoopus. PubMed is actually another platform which is free medical biomedical and life sciences database. Okay, and you can see if you search that, PubMed will help you to properly give you a search. We can say search ending or like it give you the most aligned work that you search there. So PubMed is another kind of database. IEEE, okay, everyone know IEEE. So IEEE, when you publish some conference in IEEE, there will be IEEE Explore Digital Library where you can find that name of the conference. Okay. For example, you are publishing in 10Con. Okay, IEEE 10Con, actually that is also kind of a tier one journal like EMAC. So there is for every year there is a digital explore library of 10Con, okay, for that particular year, and you can find your paper in that particular database. Similarly, these are for conference. The journals also this have IEEE Explore library where you can inside that you can find that particular volume and that particular issue when your particular journal paper is published. For example, let's say my journal is published in December 2025, right? So if my volume is like 66, okay, so that particular volume number and for that month of issue, like or for December, I can find my particular paper on that particular volume and issue, and with that page number also. Okay, so that's all present in this digital databases. Okay. So the problem is like how to find a good journal article. So Google Scholar is the free, easiest starting point for a student to find the research article. Even I have like in the previous workshop, I have just gone through this searching of like articles from Google Scholar. So what are citation? So for example, let's say I have published one paper related to, let's say the topic is detection of diabetes, okay, using lifestyle information of the people and using AI, XGBoost regression or like XGBoost classifiers. So this is my title, entire title. So if I have published my work like 2 years back and people are actually using my research article as reference in their research article by referencing my some formula or referencing my some table, my figures. Okay, so I'm getting lot of citations in my that particular article. So I've shown you my Google Scholar account, right? So for every paper, I have like citation, like say 45 citations. That means 45 researchers have cited my research work. Okay, and taken reference from that. So similarly, there are two more parameters: impact factor and H index. That is applicable for all the researchers that are actually publishing their work. Okay, so a journal level score is called as impact factor, where the average number of citations its article received over the previous 2 years. Okay, so every year you will find the particular value or score of that impact factor. Okay, varies from like 0.1 to like a lot, like 12, 13, 20. Similarly, H index, okay, H of their papers each have been cited at least H times. Okay, so yeah, this is the H index parameter, and you don't have to worry about this H index and impact factor. That is none of your concern because these are actually the scores that you got in Google Scholar. The formula and all is given here about calculation of this H index. Yeah, so we have like uh, gone through this peer review, preprint. Yeah, every research paper which is published has got this DOI, which is very important, digital object identifier. I'll show you later when I start like giving you information about this in online. And what who is actually corresponding author of any research article? Okay, for example, you publish one article. Okay, try to publish one article, and like for example, you have done all the work, right? I am your mentor. So, and there's a third person who is also joining with us, like as an author, okay, who contributed something. So you and me and another one. So three authors are there in one paper. So if you are actually submitting the article, okay, in some journals or conferences, okay, and you are the one who is in the first order, then you are called as a corresponding author for that research article. Okay, so you are actually also called as contact person for getting the review of that paper, okay, in your mail ID. So a corresponding mail ID is very important to be mentioned in a journal article, because when you submit it, you will get the reviews, entire reviews, and the mail from editor in chief of that particular journal, so that you can see the mail and resolve all the issues that are actually asked in the revisions. Okay. So, what is abstract in a paper? Abstract, what is manuscript? So, manuscript is the draft that you prepare for your research article. That could be like 8 pages, 10 pages. In conferences, it is very limited. So, it actually spans up to 4 to 6 pages, basically. So, for books and all, similar to DOI, there is ISSN number or ISBN number that you find in every books. Okay, even in the hard books also, these numbers are actually identifiers for your book in some databases. Plagiarism check is one of the way where your papers are initially checked with some software, so that it can detect whether your paper has AI flag or not, or similarity or not. Basically, AI flag is the secondary one, but the primary search is all about similarity, that your research article should not be copied from somewhere else work, right? What is about open access and what is subscription, right? That I will explain you when I show you some research article, right? Sorry, research journals. Okay, the anatomy of a paper, how to write a paper. Okay, so this all contains title and abstract, introduction, methods, results, discussion, and conclusion and references. It's better if I just go for this flow by looking into some papers that I have published. Okay, so let me show you this paper, then I'll discuss all these things together, right? One second, I'm just turning on and getting some papers on to give you some example, right? So I hope everyone can see that. So Neha, could you confirm that you can see that?
Yes, Dr. Gupta, we can see your screen.
Mhm. Yes. So this is the overleaf again, because we have done like the previous workshop on overleaf. So I'm taking an example of an overleaf, right? So I have this three drafts right now. So I'll make a copy of this. So this is my first draft of a paper, okay? And this is the second final manuscript of my paper, and this is after the revision, okay? So let's say I'm sharing you the final research book that I have like made, which is like finalized after revisions, okay? So this will give you like of the work, how to write. So the compile time what actually happens when you have a lot of images or like a lot of high quality images basically uh, present in your research article. So let's say I'm going for another work, okay, related to, let's say I'm going for like this work. Or okay, it's a review article. Let me go to like a smaller paper. So this is my research article actually published on 2023, I think. You can see in my Google Scholar. Okay. So this is the 4 pages article actually that I'm showing you, so that you can, because the IEEE conference that you are going to publish is also spans for like 4 pages. Okay. So yeah, let's start with the very good thing. This is called as the title of my work. So I am actually naming my. I have actually developed a very novel index that can detect diabetes, right? Using a physiological signal called as PPG, and so I named like this with an innovative name, that DSVRI, and then explaining the that particular work, a PPG based novel feature for early diagnosis of type 2 diabetes mellitus. Novel features means I'm talking about this novel feature called as DSVRI. So here are the name of the authors. So I am the first author here, okay, and these are my supervisors at that time, and the affiliations are written over here, and I'm the corresponding author, right? So it written in the first page only that corresponding author is me, and here is my mail ID. You all can see, right? So let's see how it starts. So the very first thing is about abstract. So this abstract actually goes from 200 to 250 words. It has a limit of having 200 to 250 words. And this abstract should show like a glimpse of your entire work in this 200 words. That also includes your entire result values in quantitative numbers, and also a little bit about previous problems and what exactly you have like done in your work, and what are the novelties present in your work. Okay, so you can see that I have written that the very first point, diabetes is a group of metabolic disorders characterized by hyperglycemia and is caused by deficiency in insulin production, insulin action, or both. Yes, everyone knows about this diabetes. So, insulin is actually insulin production deficiency is actually the major cause of diabetes. Okay, so in one line, I have just discussed the problem, right? And then I'm specifically talking about type 2 diabetes. Okay, and the complication related to it, like you have like lot of complications if you have very enhanced or elevated diabetes like retinopathy and cardiovascular disease and diabetic neuropathy. So these are the problems, right? Now, immediately come across this existing works for diagnosis DM2 using EPG utilize several time domain features and demographic parameters of individuals. That means I am talking about the disadvantage or like previous limitations of the work, not disadvantage, but limitations of the previous works. So that actually, and what are the problems or like limitations, and what actually it causing? Okay, so now then immediately come to my novelty part. This work proposes a novel diabetic index called as DSVRI as feature based on systemic vascular resistance pathology to discriminate between a healthy and diabetic subject. So this is the, in one line, I am just sharing my novel index or talking about my novel index. Okay, this is actually acts as my feature, which is derived from this PPG signal. Right? Once I got this, then I immediately tell that in experiments with publicly available data set, okay, I am getting this accuracy 98.52% using grid search random forest, which is a machine learning model, which is significantly higher than the existing methods. So in this whole abstract, I am saying everything in 1-2 lines. First of all, what's the problem for that disease or with that existing literature, and then I am just talking about the complications, okay, and what are the existing works, what are the limitations, and similarly, then immediately after that, I am just proposing what particular work or what novelty I am just contributing to this work, okay, and in the particular data sets or my findings are saying what or what's the outcome of that research work. So my outcome is the improved accuracy. Maybe your outcome could be different. Like you have like have some more findings maybe. So that could be your output, not in terms of accuracy, but in terms of finding. Maybe in terms of some data sets. So again, the outcome will be like vast data set. That data set if you are proposing some data set collection. So every work set has different kind of outcome that you should mention in the last lines when you are finishing the abstract. Then you have like keywords. So IEEE it is called as index terms, or keywords are the, in some journals you will find this is as keywords. So what this research is all about. So the repeated things or the particular words in which your research is revolving around. So these are called as keywords. So here my keyword is first one is definitely diabetes. Second one is my name of my index that I am proposing. Then third one is what physiological signal I am using. And then it goes on like what optimization and machine learning. And then the final one is what I'm doing. I'm actually having a signal processing thing that I'm doing here to derive the feature or index, right? So this keywords actually gives the overall words or like a area where your research is evolving. Then it's come to the very first part about introduction. So introduction, how to start introduction? So first of all, for like all biological or computational biology or AI, any work, okay, you have to first start with the related limitations or the problems associated with that disease. That if you are doing diagnosis of some disease, you start with that, okay. So I started with this the about the diabetes. What is it? With some citations, if you can see in the here. So this citation one is actually the reference number one that you can find in the bottom part. So number one. So this statement is actually taken from uh, this particular research article. Okay. Then immediately, if you find the second citation, according to WHO, in 2019, diabetes was the direct cause of 1.5 million deaths worldwide. Right. So here, what I have written a fact. Right. So to get a fact check of this particular statement, I have to give some citations. So I'm clearly saying that according to WHO, World Health Organization, so I have to cite the particular report associated with that data. So second number, definitely you will find a link. like HTTPS fact sheet details about diabetes. If you click this, you will get to that particular page, land in that page where it actually describes that statistical information that I mentioned in the research article. Right? Once you did that, you go for like this is the introduction done. Then you go for like early diagnosis thing. Like if we diagnose early, then what are the advantages of early diagnosis for any disease? Because you can plan your treatment accordingly, right? When you prior known your like disease part, and then you start with like immediately you start with like the what are the physiological signal or methods which are actually used in early days for this diabetes. And then you start with describing the literature. Like other research works in the literature had already demonstrated accurate prediction of diabetes using PPG and other demographic parameters of subject. Okay, so I'm cumulatively talking about all the research work. So I mentioned 1 to 7 work is actually saying all this researches, right? Then I started like describing the work of each individual. Like I've written Kick Horse Ravi et al. At 2019 performed endothelial dysfunction using bilateral finger PPG response to reactive hyperemia. So this is cited as number 1. So that is available in reference number 1. Then I go for fifth work. Okay, the fifth work just I'm talking about HRV features which are used in this diabetes. So you can refer to the fifth work here. This is the fifth work by this author, YRI Reddy. So you can write YRI Reddy at L, or you can write the citation here. Okay. So yes. So here I have not written. So it is not mandatorily need to write this author name. You can easily write like another work, then you can put a citation of that in the ending of that statement so that one can directly refer to the reference. So in the most recent work, Nirala et al. At 6 extracted this 37 PPG features. So Nirala et al. So you can see 6th number. Here you can see Nirala. So this is the author which has developed. So in this way, you will move in a chronological order, like 6th number, 7th number, 8th number, 9th number. So these all are in a chronological order of publishing the paper in year-wise. So definitely, if you pass on another year, you will get more improved version of that work. You should move like chronological order. When you come across all of these things, okay, you immediately talk about the limitations of that work. Like I written clearly that the aforementioned contributed works have a notable drawback of extracted features with missing clinical correlation with diabetes pathology. So I'm clearly talking about that. Yes, the people had done a good work, but these features are not clinically correlated. That means there is no biological correlation that is found in the previous work, right? So that's why I'm proposing my work, which is nothing but an index, which is clinically correlated with the diabetes pathology, right? So here you give a glimpse of your work little bit, okay? And then you give the key contribution of your proposed work, which is actually in a 2 or 3 points, bullet points, right? 2 or 3 bullet points. So here I have just given 2 bullet points contribution of my work, okay? That I formulated a new novel index, okay? And it is actually a good biomarker to identify hypertension and cardiovascular complications also. Because my index have done like my index is actually is a good biomarker for diabetes, and also it also acts as a good biomarker for hypertension and CVDs also, right? So it is giving like lot of information, or it has a good correlation biologically to give or to have a this biomarking capability basically. When this is done, you immediately go to the database that you're utilizing in your work, right? So if your work has no database, then don't need to put this, okay? But if specifically you are working on some 1 or 2 sets of database, then you have to mention that along with the particular citation. Like here you can see citation number 10. So definitely this is present in 10th number reference from where this data set is actually taken. So you can see here, there is a particular link is also given here. So if someone use this link, you can see this is clickable link. If I click there, I will definitely landing to the page where the database is there present. Okay, so you can download it because it is publicly available data set. Right? So once you get this database information, you would give the structure of the database. Okay, it's a specification, sampling frequency, number of subjects, volunteers, what are their demographic information. If possible, you can make table of that information. Okay, in a small table that how many people, what age groups they are actually sharing, what genders they have, what demography they have, okay, what protocols they have used to collect the data. Everything should be there in the database subsection, sorry, section. And then here you can see very important thing, end-to-end framework for diagnosis of type 2 diabetes mellitus using raw PPG. So this is actually the end-to-end complete block diagram of my work, right? So here you can see I start with physiological signals, okay? Then I go on with all these processes, and finally I'm getting the diagnosis between healthy versus diabetes mellitus type 2, right? Then I start with proposed method, and then I actually cite this that the proposed method is illustrated in figure 1. Figure 1 is where? Here, the entire block diagram. Then I start describing the section-wise or block-wise explanation of my end-to-end pipeline. So I started with cycle concatenation and pre-processing. So here you can see here the cycle concatenation and pre-processing is given in this block diagram. Right? Once I do that, I start formulation of my novelty part, that is formulation of this TSVRI. So I have some equations also here. Okay, that actually governs my extraction of this feature or index from the PPG signal. And then I do citations also somewhere, which is actually this SVRNCO cardiac output is taken from some journal. So I also cite that journal here. Okay, here is the equation that I used. You can also provide figures for the signals and what is the result of a segmentation that was when doing the signals. So you can see this is segment 1, this is segment 2, this is segment 3. So I'm doing this signals into different parts. So you can provide illustration of these things, okay, in your journal paper, so that the reviewer can see, yes, definitely he has done this part. That's why it is showing the figure as a evidence, right? So it's good to like show them the evidence of this. Then I started like working on using this feature and then try to see the results, how much accuracy I'm getting. So I made this results. I'm making this plots like this feature for diabetes and this feature for healthy. How they are distinguishing between this healthy versus uh, uh, diabetes, right? So this gives a very clear evidence to the reviewers that yes, my feature is capable to distinguish between this healthy versus diabetic, right? So these plots are very necessary. This plots, statistical data, right? Graphs, okay, bar plots, plots, right? So these all are actually the evidences that we show in the journal paper in the analysis part, right? Once you are done with this, okay, you can show a lot of things like what are the features used earlier, okay, with citations, and you also go for clinical significance, okay, of your related work. So all these things are there. Once you do that, okay, you present a final table of your results, right? So this is my final table, results table, where I'm showing the accuracies, okay, with these two machine learning models, okay. Once I get these results, I am also presenting my result, okay, comparing with other previous works. So you can clearly see that my work is getting better accuracy than previous works. So this is called as comparative analysis. So there is a separate section in the research article called as comparative analysis, where you compare your work with previous works, published work, in terms of accuracy, efficiency, or whatever you feel that your work is better compared to the previous work in some parameters, right? So that's the comparative analysis. There is also some more parts if you have like get more space in your research work. Okay, I am actually assuming that this research work is having 4 pages only. If you are allowed to have 6 pages, then you can put some more things, sections, right, like discussion, okay, or comparative analysis, and more discussion part, right? Or you can do ablation experiment. What is ablation experiment? We will see in the PPT again. Okay. So I think everyone has got how to write this paper, right? And but yes, the one thing that I'm telling you is you have to justify, okay, the proposed work, or you have to highlight your proposed work more and more, as much as you can in the research work, so that your novelty can should not be diluted, right? Because there are a lot of works, other works available, and if you are showing that equally showing your work aligning with other works in terms of all your results, then definitely your novelty will be diluted. You need to justify and compare your result, compare your proposed framework, so that other features should look diminished and your work should be highlighted. So here what I did, I compare the performance or score of feature importance score of my proposed work with other works, right? So you can see my DSVR, this proposed feature is actually getting highest feature importance as compared to the other works here. Okay. Never. So these are actually the things which are actually available, should be available in every research articles. Let's get back to our PPT again to discuss some more things, right? Yeah. So how to see? Okay, 1 second. Uh, yeah, here we are the anatomy of a paper. How every paper is organized. I told you, like title and abstract, introduction, methods that we use, results, discussion. Okay. And one more thing, in mostly used in computational biology or like your research work, if I specifically talking about the projects based on this, that you should show some clinical relevance of the particular work, show that your social impact could be justified, that you are proposing in ISEF or like publication. Right? Conclusion and reference, final conclusion or summary of your research work. Right? Now, how to read the paper? That is also our main agenda of this workshop. So first of all, get the big picture, read the title, abstract, section headings, and the conclusion. Glance at every figure, skip everything else. Like, first of all, just see the paper first, right? Whether this paper is aligning to your research work or not, right? So see the bigger picture first. Let's see the abstract, see the title, see the conclusion and all, right? Then immediately go to, and yeah, you should like have 5 minutes for that, right? Like I've shown you my paper, so you can see my abstract of the paper, title of the paper, and conclusion. Okay, and take a glance of that figures that are available in that research book. So you will get a rough idea about what this researcher is going to do. Then you spend 5 minutes on that. Then there comes the understanding the approach, what approach they are using. So basically, approach means what novelties they are introducing in their research work. So you should like spend 30 to 60 minutes while reading that particular approach, that how they are actually uh, executing the pipeline of the work. And then deep dive into critical evaluation, right? You can check the claim, okay? And you can see whether the hypothesis they actually used or hypothesis involved in the research work is fully justified or not, right? You can see and verify that, yeah, that this particular claim is verified with these results or not. So if you are able to do this 3 parts, okay, then definitely you will get a much better idea about that research work. So what you should look for in each section of the research work: abstract, what did they do? and what did they find in one paragraph. Definitely 200 to 250 words is like takes like a minute to read, right, for you. So it will get this information. Introduction is all about what problem or gap motivates this work. Okay, because I told you that introduction you started with like giving the problems, right? These are the problems associated. This is the statistics of that problem. Okay, globally or like locally available in your area or socially. This is the most trending problem going on. So whatever the problems, you just give a motivation or gap for that. Then related work, how this different from what came before. Then methods we have, exactly how was it done. Could I reproduce it? So this is all methodology. Then result section. Okay, what the numbers and figures actually show. Are they justifying the things? Are they justifying the actual results or the findings that actually claimed in the research work? This is all about the results. Discussion part, what the results mean, and even what are the limitations of the work. Okay, no work is perfect, right? Even they are publishing in top tier conferences or top tier journal paper, every work has their limitation. Limitation in terms of feature, limitation in terms of subjects, some data, some discarding mechanism, some signal quality. Okay, whatever the factors may be. So these are having some these limitations. And then conclusion, what you conclude, what's the outcome of your research work? That should be clearly mentioned. So build your own paper summary card. Okay, so like I along with other mentors like told you to summarize papers, right? That you read. So what papers, how to prepare a summary for that? Okay. So you can just ask these simple questions about our research work, like what issue is being solved, what data was used. So you have to just have the reference of every data, links of every data, where these data are actually, because data set is actually the one of the biggest resource that you have for doing that research, right? So you should have complete information and actual source of your data. What the method model used in the result, okay, what key results are there, limitation, one big idea. So if you are summarize this entire research paper into this six uh, set of points, then definitely you got a very good or a very precise summary of your any research paper. Right? So let's try it. A working example is given. Deep learning for diabetic retinopathy detection from retinal images. Okay, this is the title. What problems you are solving, okay, what problems the work is solving, what method they used. So they applied CNN model, okay, what data sets they used, what are the key results, what are the limitations, what is one big idea. So a big idea you can summarize from this, like AI can pre-screen images and flag on urgent cases for a specialist to review first. What are the pitfalls? Okay, like many people like did this thing, like only read the abstract and assuming that you understand the whole paper. That's not the thing. Abstract is not the only thing that contains all the things of the paper, right? So skipping the limitation section. Limitations are the very big positive resource for you to get the research gap of that paper or research work. Okay, limitation is a very useful part of your any research paper. So whenever you actually reading one research article, just make sure that you should carefully see their limitation and write it down somewhere. So if for 10 papers you have 10 limitations, then definitely you will get out of this 10, 5 solid research gaps of any paper that you can solve in your research. That's the key thing that I'm telling you. Okay. And not checking what data set they use, that is also one pitfall. And tracking a correlation, treating a correlation on the results. Okay. Uh, which is not validated, right? Skipping the unfamiliar terms, okay, and don't look them up. So that is also the bypassing the things. So these are the reading pitfalls to avoid, right? So all this reading, you will get a summary of every paper. So if you summarize this into these 5 points, then definitely you understand one paper. So that's the entire reading key things that I told you. Problem, data set, method model, key result, limitation, one big idea. So limitation, data sets. These are two very important things you need to carefully see in any paper, right? So anatomy of an IEEE conference paper, already told you in the previous workshop, but I will tell you again in this workshop. So this is the entire pipeline of any conference paper, even in some journal paper also. Title, author's affiliation, abstract of this limitation, keywords, introduction, related work, methodology, experiment and result, discussion, conclusion, future work. Okay. So, for example, even if you are giving the limitation of your work and you want to convey to the reviewer that yes, your research work has potential, and even your research work has like some future directions also. Like if this research work is actually taken again in some further iteration, then the some bigger picture or some bigger application can be drawn from your project that you can propose in the future work section that comes just before the references part. So that is conclusion in future work. Right? So this is the habit that you should have when you are writing some research. Search your research articles, read 15, 30 papers related to that. Group by theme or approach. Okay. Identify what's still missing. For example, if you want to predict, let's say, blood cancer using some leukemia images or blood cancer images. Okay. So you will see a lot of literature based on this. So you can group them based on the approaches. For example, if someone is using deep learning, okay, in some research work, so 5 to 10 papers based on deep learning, 5 to 10 papers based on the parameters of the images or parameters of the length of or the sizes of the image descriptors that are used in that data set. So that is another group of papers you have. Then take some classical machine learning approach methods that are used in this applications that you can group in some another class of research article. So you can group them according to these themes based on research, based on approach, based on data sets, okay, based on some other like methodology, okay, based on some other index, based on some other findings, right? So these are the separable parameters for the research works. Then again, you can identify what's still missing using the again, I told you again that limitations is the major factor or a critical section of any research work from where you can find the research gap. Right? Figures that you actually place in your research work is architecture diagrams, flow charts, bar line charts, confusion matrix. So these are the important figures. So these are do's. Label every axis with units. Okay, you should not directly put any figure. Okay, anonymously in the research work. All should have one caption associated with the figure. For example, if you are writing a caption for end-to-end pipeline, then you should definitely give figure one, right? Like figure one, like this figure is actually the figure describes the entire end-to-end pipeline for diagnosis of diabetes, right? And let's say where we are, yeah, this macro section. Okay. So, yes. Figures we have actually, yeah, figure. Architecture diagram. Okay. Whatever the diagrams you have, that should all contain labels, axis, units. Okay, should be colored if possible. Write a caption, clear caption, and use scripts vector quality images. Vector quality means the images in EPS form or high quality JPG form, right? That should have the DPI values very high. DPI dot I think what's the particular index called? DPI, the quality 300, 600 DPI is actually much good to like see when even zoomed, right? That figure quality that you can use. What are don'ts on that? Use default, unstyled spreadsheet charts, text so small it can't be, right? So even that actually applicable for figures also. Figures should not be very small that even we cannot see. Okay, so use a 3D pie chart. Okay, don't use any 3D kind of diagram or pie charts. Okay, uh, leave access or legends unlabeled. So every label or every colors used in the plots must be labeled. Okay, must be justified. Discussion and conclusion. Okay, discussion is interpretation of your every findings, results, even by the statistical values, even by plots, even by comparing it with other features. Okay, so and also you have to state what are limitations, and honestly you should do that because limitations is actually one of the things that every reviewers also want because you're contributing something to society, so you must not uh, inflate your research work so that this is the perfect work only. You should be honest about your own limitations also, right? Explain any surprising or unexpected results, any outliers which you find in your research work. Okay, honesty is actually very important in your research work. Conclusion, okay, keep it to 3 to 5 sentences, no more. Okay, restate your key contribution clearly. Okay, so these are actually the conclusion part where you finally conclude your paper. So yes, overleaf we did already. So you can all work with this overleaf template. Okay, after downloading. So this research toolkit you can use overleaf LaTeX for writing paper, Google Scholar for searching the literatures, connected papers, GitHub for getting the codes, Grammarly and Quillboard. These are actually used for uh, your clearing or like having a good grammar to like mitigate the grammatical mistakes. Okay, rephrasing the sentences. Draw.io or PowerPoint for making the diagrams, flow diagrams, and all. Draw.io is actually very good platform that you can use. Try it in your research work to make any flow diagram or flow charts. Python is actually for coding that I already did in the previous workshop. These are very important research tools that you should use. Okay. So how to write faster? Okay. Accelerating. These are accelerating tips. Okay. So you should outline your research works fast. You should write your contribution clearly so that it should be like summarized to 3 to 4 points. Uh, you can batch the similar task. Okay, one session for all figures, one for all references. Don't context switch. So these are some tips. Write results first. So make a folder first of all in your PC locally, and you should save all the results that you find. So that should be placed first. Then you can later think about discussing it when wherever in which section it is required. Okay. So these are the tips for making the writing work faster. Okay. So these are checklist for do's and don'ts before submission. Follow the exact template. Okay. Do not actually tamper the template, right? Your figure should not overflow in a page. Proofread your paper. Check every figure. Okay, whether it is cited or not. Okay, don't leave any figure uncited. Like let's say you are having figure 3. So if you do not discuss figure 3 in any of the part of your research work or paper, then it is of no use. It is like remains unconnected, like not connected with your research work. Then verify every citation, like every references should be verified. Okay, so these are all the uh, major things that you find when you are reading and writing the research. I hope this workshop is actually intuitive for all of you. Okay, and I hope and giving you best of luck for finally writing your good research work and publish it wherever you want, like at Berkeley or ISEF conferences. So for any doubts, okay, you can ask me the questions here. Okay, and this PPT will be shared with everyone. So I will share it with like Nihar and she will circulate to everyone. So thank you everyone for attending this session and over to Nihar.
So before we end the session, does anybody have any question? You can raise your hand.
Is there a video recording of this session will be shared around to other people?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
Hanshu, share the recording with you.
Okay.
Yes, Vanshika.
Along with the recording, will the slide deck be shared too?
Yes, sure. We'll share the slides with you as well.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody has any more question? Yes, Isha.
Where will these be shared?
So we will share this in your Discord group, or we'll share it to you via email as well if you're not able to open it.
Okay, thank you.
So I think we are done here. Thank you so much, Dr. Gupta. You have explained everything in so much detail, and this session was very much needed, especially for the students who are now going to finish their final draft. So once again, thank you so much on behalf of all of us.
So, last but not the least, if anyone wants my drafted research article in overleaf, okay, any previous published work, okay, don't worry. So I can share a copy of that to everyone so that they can use the entire flow of their work in their own work. So all you have to do is to paste your contents there. So there will be having some examples, rescaling part of things there already present in the draft. So they can use similar kind of scaling in their work, and also the figures and all, captions and all. And the very important part is overlay packages that we use, that use package in the preambles of that overlay code in the tag file. So they can use my own used package in that. All they have to do is to include their work and paste it in the overlay part. So I will make a zip of it, okay, and share it to Nehar. So Nehar will share it, this zip to everyone. All you all have to do is to upload that zip in your own overlay account, okay, and then you can good to go while opening this. So if you recompile, you will get my research article. You can paste whatever you want. I think that will be great.
Yes, Dr. Gupta, I'll do that. I'll share everything with the students so that it will be helpful for them.
All right, all right.
Okay, I think we can end the session now.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I think Arman has a question. Dr. Gupta, can you check the chat?
Once a paper is 1 second, yeah. Once a paper is submitted to a journal, how long will it take to get officially published? Yes, very good question, Arman. Actually, first of all, when you submit it, it will be first technically checked by the editor-in-chief and basically the office section of that journal, okay, editorial office. So first, after this technicality check, the editor-in-chief generally invites more than 5 to 10 reviewers to review your paper. So every reviewer get your paper, your review paper, like for revising your paper, they got a mail, okay, from the editor-in-chief, and then maybe it happens that 3, 4, 5, many people can accept that, and they will review their paper like by taking time. So let's say one reviewer has did it like for in 2 days, and another one is taking 15 days. Another has maybe some reviewer forgot about the email, okay, and if they are reminded again, they are actually replying back in like 2 to 3 months. So it may take time from the span of like 1 month to 8 to 10 months to get the first revision. Okay. In between that, it might also be get rejected if it is not in a good quality or good shape. Okay. After that, you do the revision. They also give you time to make the revisions in the paper. Let's say 15 days, 1 month time. Then again, you submit the major revision of that research article. Then again, it is gone to the same reviewer to review the paper and ask them to like see whether their issues are resolved or not. Once it is actually resolved by the reviewers, then again it will came back to you for minor revisions. Once you solve the minor revision, the final good news will come to your mail that yes, your paper is accepted, and that's the part where you confirm that your paper will be published online. So whatever the early volumes available in the journal, in that volume your paper will be get published. So it will take another 1 month or 15 days to get it online. But before that, with the acceptance mail, you can officially say that your paper will be confirmed and will be published by the particular journal. Another question, how often does the paper get rejected and how to prevent the paper from being rejected? So honestly telling you, Arman, there are countless papers are submitted in the different research journals, right? And yes, due to this evaluation of this ChatGPT Claude, okay, many people actually do like writing work using this Claude or GPT, rephrasing it, okay? So submissions from the past 4 or 5 years have like became like 50 to 100 times more than compared to like 10 years back, because at that time there were no GPT, right? So yes, that's why rejection rate is also very high. So you must have like do lot of things with your research work, ablation experiment. If you are doing some good findings about the model, then you should compare it with base models and justify your novelty. Everything, every transparency should be there in your paper. Then only you can confirm that your paper won't be rejected. And if you are submitting any paper with similar kind of research work or like a plain kind of work which is having like little bit novelties, then definitely it will be rejected. Yeah, Maria, that's a good question. Can you submit your paper to multiple conferences? The simple answer is no. We should not have a practice of submitting the research paper in multiple conferences because that is not ethically correct. Okay, because if you see this paper will be reviewed by like 1 or 2 conferences platforms, that is not ethically correct, because simultaneously this both will be like same work, and definitely if 2 works are if single work is reviewed by multiple conferences, then that is ethically not correct, because it will be like published in only one conference, right? Because as soon as it comes to some database, the similarity report will be generated if you try to publish it into some other, because it's online available and your journal will be matched by this. Okay. And are there any extra fees for submitting a paper to a journal like IEEE? Extra fees is for registration on that conference conference platform. So ENBC, NCon, or even local IEEE conferences, they have their registration charges. So registration charges fees are actually mentioned in their conference website. So they have like very low fee for students and scholars. Then faculties and delegates have another charges. Outsider or industry partners or industrial people are having another kind of charges. So yeah, charges is there for like registering in the conference. So probably some of the kits are provided, lunch and gala dinner are provided in many conferences when you physically go there and will present your paper. Yeah. Anything else?
Anybody
Yes,
has
anything
any
else?
more question?
I believe there are still 2 remaining questions in the chat. I don't think they've rolled up for you yet.
So what papers with hardware implementation have higher rates of acceptance is they cannot be easily replicated by generative AI. Yes, it is very much correct. Hardware implementation have higher rates of acceptance. I accept it, because definitely higher. It has like this evidence of like images, the working results, right? So even to give more evidence to your paper, there is a option in the journal submission about the supplementary materials that you can submit. So as a evidence, you can provide supplementary materials of any links for your demo of your work, okay, as a video. For example, you saved the working video of your work in Drive, and you can give the Drive link to Drive link in the submission portal in supplementary material. You can even provide codes for your work in the supplementary materials. or IEEE is a data port for that, dedicated data port where you can submit the data and also the codes in that repository. So that gives more evidence for your research papers. Anything else? Yeah. So where and who? Yeah, very good question. You have ethical notes. Yes, definitely. You should have one ethical note in the paper as well. In the last, that you should not have conflict of interest. Okay. And yeah, one more thing I forgot about this is you have to mention, but it is applicable for journal papers or projects. When your institute is funding for your project, you should mention about this funding of projects is done by this institute. So that is about the funding statement that you provide in the, and conflict of interest, whether your research work is conflicting with someone else's work. So that all ethical declaration you should make. So you can find this sample of ethical declaration in the research paper. Okay, at the end before the reference. Yeah, anything else? I will recommend that everyone, I will provide overleaf zip file for you. So all doubts will come when you actually start writing your research book, right? So I hope everyone should try it now and try to write your first draft of the paper, whatever the research project you have. So how much creepy or how much chaos you actually this paper have, but just write any work, right? So that will give you like a lot of experience of new doubts. Okay, you will get a lot of problems there, like your table will be becoming more large or figures are actually becoming too small, too large. So all solution you can find out. Anything else? Or should I be wind up? Yes, Neha, I think we done.
Yes, Dr. Gupta, I think we have covered all the doubts of the students. So we can wind up the session now. Again, thank you so much for taking up this workshop, and thank you all of you for joining and being with us till the end. We'll catch up with all of you in the next workshop.